Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I'm proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So I'm going to put this video together really quick. I'm going to show you some things. It's not edited perfectly and stuff, so it's not going to be beautiful and stuff. But I just want to kind of relay a kind of thought that I'm thinking here about what Michael Jackson actually should have done with his life, and kind of give a reason for why he didn't do that. And what I say is that it all relates back to that he was such a damaged child from being abandoned by his real parents, Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, then when he was a baby, being given to the Jackson family, where he was used by Joe Jackson to further the advancement of his family's music career, you know, to build a legacy around his family. And Michael Jackson is just being used by everything, given away by his original parents, then used by this Jackson family, who's his new family, but he finds out later he's just being used by them. And this is what happened with Michael. He just kept being used and used. And then because of that, he made the huge mistake where he wanted to, he didn't want to have to deal with all this stuff. And there's a point there where he's doing business, but then there's also the child in him where he doesn't want to deal with things, and he wants to just live and be a happy child, where he goes to live at the Neverland Ranch and stuff. So let me just show you a couple things here. So this is Michael Jackson. They're talking about him buying oh no, that's the Neverland Ranch part there. So first let me see. This is when he's buying the ATV catalog, right? Okay, so I'm just going to read you a couple things. It says, Jackson was first informed that the ATV catalog was up for sale in September of 1984 by his attorney, John Branca. Okay, so Michael Jackson had the John Branca guy that would do all the work for him. Any legal issues, John Branca would hire the lawyers that he needed. He would hire investigators. Whatever he needed, John Branca would he knew how to get all of that stuff done. All of the legal processes. So Michael Jackson didn't have to do all that stuff. John Branca was doing it. All Michael Jackson had to do was sign a check and give authorization. And then John Branca would have got it done. And so they say then down at the bottom there, began drafting contracts in January of 1985. So just say around there. So like from 84 to 85, that's when they were dealing with that, and they got that done. Michael Jackson buys that ATV music catalog. But there was one other thing here, is that it said, but the package also included buildings, a recording studio, and studio equipment. But it said Michael didn't want that part of it. It said Jackson was only interested in the music copyrights, okay, because the package also included recording studio and studio equipment. But Michael didn't want that. He just wanted the rights to the music. And then I'm going to show you here. So this is okay, so this is about Neverland Ranch. I'm going to tell you this thing here about Neverland. So it said, in March of 1988, Jackson purchased 2,700 acres or land near Santa Ynez, California, to build a new home, the Neverland Ranch, at a cost of $17 million. He installed a Ferris wheel, carousel, movie theaters, and a zoo. A security staff of 40 patrolled the grounds. Okay, so he bought it for $17 million. Then he added all that stuff to it. How much more did that cost? Millions, right? And then he had a security staff of 40 people, and that's just the security staff. Okay, that's not the gardeners. And then that's not the people that are like the repairmen that are making sure that all the equipment is working properly. Plus, you know, like his insurance bill for that place had to be massive, you know, because to allow kids to come over there and ride on those rides, that means he's got to be carrying a huge insurance policy, because if any of those kids get hurt on the rides, then they get to sue Michael. I mean, he had all the animals. I mean, so you had to have caretakers for the animals. Like, that's a shitload of money and people that he's employing to take care of that Neverland Ranch, okay? So he had already acquired the ATV music catalog, but then instead of pursuing that line and saying, I'm going to build my own music company, because now he's got a foundation to build a real record company, because the Beatles, he can license out, like all the Beatles songs, he can license that stuff out for commercials and stuff like that, right? Which means he's always going to be generating an income. So instead of hiring 40 security guards, he should have hired 40 salesmen to work for his record company that would have been producing income off of the music that he owns with the ATV catalog, right? But then what he should have done is he should have built his own record company. Because then the other thing here is, so this is this is the Epic thing. I wanted to show you. There was a part here. I forgot to line this up perfectly here. Because it says in 2004, but that's not. It was earlier than that, and no, I might have not lined this one up because I was looking at a bunch of different stuff here. The corporate structure of the '60s. Maybe this is Sony Corp. There it is. Sony Corporation. Yeah, so where it says corporate structure, right? See, Michael Jackson should have built a corporate structure around his music catalog, and he should have built a record studio. He should have built the best one. He definitely was in the position to do it. So it says here, Sony Corporation bought CBS Records in 1987. And the company was renamed Sony Music in 1991. Okay, so if that was for sale in 1987, that's right before Michael buys the Neverland Ranch, okay? Maybe Michael could have bought that. Maybe Michael could have bought CBS Records, which included Epic. Okay, so Epic, Michael's record label, Epic, the reason Michael ends up with Sony is because Sony bought CBS, which owned Epic. Okay, so that's like how all that stuff happened. And then Michael re-signed a new deal with Sony, but he didn't have to do that, you know? What he should have done is he should have bought CBS Records. He should have been looking to, if he would have took the ATV catalog, if he would have started his own record company, by the time that CBS would have been available for sale, then maybe Michael could have had a chance to buy that, which would have turned him into this huge corporate, massive person in the music company. Instead, he allowed Sony to come in and do that. Okay, so when Michael's talking about all this stuff with Sony, it's like, dude, no, you allowed them to do it, Michael, because you wanted to go live your childhood fantasies at Neverland Ranch, right? If Michael would have taken all the money and the effort of what he did to build Neverland Ranch, if he would have taken that money and put it into building a record company, I mean, who's to say he couldn't have bought CBS Records? He's big enough and powerful enough. Why couldn't he? And it's like, if you want to be in control of your music, and if you want to take care of other artists, and you want to be a super big, rich person who's well respected in the world, and like I said, it's not like he's got to do all the work. He just hires the people. But instead of hiring the people to build a record company, he hired 40 security guards to watch Neverland Ranch. And that can't be like half of the staff. He had to have a whole nother like 40 people to groom the yards, to watch the animals, to do maintenance over the Ferris wheel and all the rides and stuff, you know? So all the people all the money that he spent on Neverland Ranch, okay, that's just him living out his childhood fantasies, right? And in reality, he's alone there. He's just, in reality, he's just alone. He built this place and there he is alone. Okay, and that's because he was so damaged from being an abandoned child. He thought that this was the thing that was going to fulfill. And see, that's the thing as a person. He's trying to fulfill his needs, right? So what would have been Michael Jackson as being the music legend and the guy that wants to own his music and has all this interest in music, right? And he buys the ATV catalog, so he's in perfect position now to build a freaking huge corporation around music, and he's in the perfect position to become a owner of the best record company in the world. And instead of these other companies coming in and buying stuff, Michael would have bought them. And once Michael was buying the stuff, all those other people would have backed off because their product would have become much less valuable because they would not been able to sign the artist, because all of the quality artists would have went to Michael Jackson's companies because he would have taken care of them properly. He would have made sure that they were watched and he was not screwing them. And once he got a reputation for being a person who takes care of his artist, once he got that reputation, all of the good artists, anybody he wanted, would have went to his company, which that then devalues all of the other record companies that are out there. Then Michael Jackson could have went and bought them. That's what he should have done, and he was in perfect position to do it. But no, That's not his real interest. His real interest is he's got this other issue where he's got this childhood thing, and he thinks to fulfill that problems, because it's like, this is what I'm trying to show you people about Michael Jackson being an abandoned child, and this is the real issue in his life that caused all the problems, because he doesn't focus on the business, which that's what he should have done. He was raised in the music environment through Motown all those years. He saw how Motown took advantage of the Jackson 5. That's why they left and had to even leave their name, the Jackson 5. They couldn't even take their name. But he never talks about Motown. See, Michael Jackson, he could have bought Motown. You know, he could have bought anything he wanted. He was in perfect position to do all those things. But he's got a problem. That he was abandoned as a child by his real parents, and that the Jacksons used him, and it caused in him this problem, which he tried to fulfill the pain that he was having inside himself. He tried to fill that hole by building this Neverland Ranch, because he thought, see how he's taking care of children. He wants to do things for children. He's not doing as a businessman should have done, and making sure that the music artists are all taken care of. See, that's what he should have done. And with his life that he led, that's where he was going. He was in perfect position to do that. But he's got this other problem, this big problem. And the problem is all around that he's an abandoned child. And here he is, this picture perfectly shows you, he's alone. He's alone in this place. He built this whole world, and then what did he do? He ended up there alone. It didn't fill the void in his life, and it did not cure his problems, which leads to him becoming a drug addict. Leads to him having a serious drug addiction, because if this guy was in charge of this big music company and stuff, that guy would not have had the time to become a drug addict, and he wouldn't have done that, because then it would have let down all of the artists that were beneath him, and it would have put a bad image. He wouldn't have done that. But he's got this other hole in his life that nobody knows about. It's a total secret. And he tried to build this to fill that void, to take care of the pain, but it didn't work. Because he was still living a lie. The whole issue of what's wrong with Michael Jackson is he's living a lie. That people don't know that he was abandoned as a child. They don't understand that Joe Jackson just used him to build fame for his family. And now all of the fame, it's like the Jacksons. Michael Jackson's talent is linked to the Jackson family. He's like lost. He's doesn't know where he fits into the world. And all of that pain and all the freaking confusion leads Michael to becoming a serious drug addict, which makes him dead. And, you know, he tried to look for friends with like Sony. You can't be friends with Sony. That's a business corporation. But Michael was in perfect position to be the music corporation conglomerate mastermind of the whole freaking world. He could have done that, but he didn't do it. Because this is the problem that he really had. And where does he put all his money? Into trying to fill that hole in his life. This perfectly freaking tells the story that relates to the actual story about what I'm saying. That you people can't explain this. You guys have problems in your story, and you're wanting to say, oh, Sony, that is the most pathetic thing. And when Michael Jackson's putting the picture up that, oh, it's Sony's fault. I mean, come on. Oh, it's Sony's fault. It's Sony's fault that you took all your money and spent it on Neverland Ranch, and you didn't build a music empire with your money? So that's Sony's fault? That's not Sony's fault. That's your fault, Michael Jackson. You could have stopped this from happening to you, and you could have stopped that from happening to all kinds of other people. But your real interest in the world was not to do that. Your real interest in the world was to fulfill the pains that you have from being an abandoned child, and to relive your childhood. And let me take care of the children. It's like, how are you going to take care of the children? By giving this little experience? They still got to go live life, get jobs, and then get taken advantage by these corporations. You didn't really help anybody. This is a fraud life, and he realized that his whole life was a fraud, which leads him to becoming the drug addict that he was, and which leads him to being dead at 50. The whole issue about everything is that he is an abandoned child. And nobody will ever understand Michael Jackson, and they'll never understand how all of these things occurred until you realize the whole issue with what this guy's problem was, is that he was abandoned as a baby. Until you realize that, you can never understand how all of this stuff developed. Because Michael Jackson should have been the biggest music, he should have had a music empire. He should have had the best record company, and he should have been buying them out. But that's not what happened. No, he ends up dead at 50 years old, a junkie.